Hey everybody, welcome back to Everyman Prepping. How's everybody doing today? I want to talk about one of the things that affects all preppers, whether you're new to the game or you've been in the game for a long time, and that's food. You know, everybody stores food as they start prepping. Food and water are two of the most important things people start with usually, then they go into medical, self-defense, shelter, all that stuff. But let's talk about food. We've done, plenty of reports, in the last months over the wars and upcoming situations with that SHTF part of it, but we haven't really dug into how we doing on the food supplies, how are the crops doing this year. So I want to dig into that. There's some stories coming up today that I want to address it and say, are we looking to have a good summer, a poor summer? Do you need to stockpile certain food now than you have been? So let's go ahead and check that out and get into it really quick. And we see here coming out of the hedge that wheat prices are jumping to nine-month highs on fears of dwindling supplies. So it's not really dwindling supplies yet, they're fears of, because winter wheat planting just happened. It's emerging. They can kind of see how it's doing. So we're going to go through this article and we're going to go through what some of the fears might be. And, is this something that you should stockpile? Wheat berries. I have wheat berries stocked because I have a mill. You can also just sprout them and eat them. You can also cook with them. Wheat berries are great. If you're trying to make flour, make sure you have a mill that can be on grid or off grid. Can work either way, whether or not you have electricity or not. Because you grind it, then you can have flour and make bread or whatever you want to make with it. But wheat berries are great to have, whether it's hard red winter, soft white, whatever you want to store. Different methods. But let's look at what talking about wheat. It says here, it's going to start off saying this current administration has deflected rampant food inflation on greedy corporations. But it says, but more likely due to supply constraints, which I believe too. There's more supply constraints than greedy corporations. Although a lot of corporations do take advantage of the, inflation or even the fear of shortages to jack prices up. So both things could be true at the same time. It says beef and egg prices are climbing. Staples like orange juice, coffee, cocoa beans are skyrocketing. And then it says now the latest soft commodity that's pushing higher is wheat. So it's at a 9-month high. And if you look at this chart here, you can see it's nowhere near the highs of the end of 2021 through June of 2022. Nowhere near these highs, but yeah, it is on a 9-month high. You see back here into 2023. We'll see if it pushes higher and goes, back up to these areas of, in high inflation when we're at 9% inflation in 2022. But as the prices go up, it will cause inflation to keep either maintain where it's at or even go higher because, like I said, wheat's used in a lot of commodities. Not only your cereals and your breads and feed. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of byproducts of wheat that are used. So it'll be something we need to pay attention to and something you might want to think about stockpiling. So why is it maybe going to be a shortage this year? Well, let's go through what they say really quick here. Black Sea dryness. So in the Black Sea, that's over there, Ukraine, Russia over there. So in that area, it's been a lot drier. And as the second item says, there's a war going on in Ukraine right now, obviously. So you could see the season could drop about 6% from a year earlier. They actually had a pretty decent yield, for being in a country in war last year. So it could drop 6%. I mean, if you're a farmer out there, not only you got to worry about, how you're going to transport it, you're going to sell it. Is once it gets transported, is it going to get bombed? But is your field going to be bombed? Is there tanks plowing through your field? As Russia pushes more on advance, they're going to take, more of those fields. And will then the grain be shipped into Russia? We don't know. So that's definitely going to impact it for that part of the world. And then we have a wet Western Europe. So up there in France, UK and all that, it's been raining a lot. When it rains, you can't plant. If you do plant, maybe it rots the seeds, maybe it rots the roots, maybe it doesn't emerge well. And it says here, in France, the share of wheat and barley in top conditions lags far behind last year's level. Rain has also slowed spring plantings in the UK, Germany, and France. So yeah, there'll definitely be a slow emergence and slow growth and maybe even shortages in Europe from this. So let's keep an eye on that. Everybody over there in Europe, we have UK. You have a longtime listener out there, Paul. I don't know if he's had much news on the UK side, what they're thinking about, how the weather's impacting the yields over there. Maybe he'll put it in the comments below. We shall see. And then it says we go down here to parched Australia. They're having basically they're going into their winter right now. They just came out of their summer. But it says here a dry, hot summer in parts of Australia have dried up the soil just as farmers plant the crop. Crops risk frying in the state if rain stops after germination. So that's going to be something we got to watch out here in the U.S. Because there's still a big drought going on. We're going to talk about Kansas in a minute here, and how this is affecting them. So it's, going on, says, and that's what it says here, dry U.S. U.S. winter wheat fields since early April have still remained a concern for spring plantings. Kansas is one of the big states that it produces a lot of the wheat, one of the top producing states we have. It says there now remains a wait and see game. That's what we're going to wait and see. But this here, we go to this other article from Successful Farming. Damage already done to Kansas winter wheat crop despite recent rainfall. So they've had rain. In fact, if we look at this chart here, this is a participation departure. So how much rain they've gotten over or below the average, and it's computed from 1951 to 2023. This is a lot, but last year this sucker was almost all red, the -2 or -3 inches. This is actually a lot better, but according to the article, it's still not good enough. I mean, you can see that some areas have gotten, more rain than they've had in the average, but some areas are still down lower. So it's a mixed bag for Kansas right now. But I highlighted a few things. Here's a picture of cracked ground, the ground cracks and there's no water. But what it says here, it says, for the 6th week in a row, winter wheat in Kansas is the worst in the nation. It says the state winter wheat crop saw a slight improvement in crop condition from the previous week. Despite the precipitation, the damage has already been done for most of the crop, however. And this is how they rated the crop. They rated it, from everywhere from very poor to excellent. So, we got 11% very poor, 20% poor, 36% fair. It's only 30% good or 3% excellent. So, that's not too great right now. That's not a good report for Kansas. Obviously, they're going to need more rain. We'll see if more rain comes. Part of the problem is we're having these huge storms, much more violent, bigger this year. And so, is that going to tear up the fields? Is that going to soak the fields? If they get these derechos and they drench the fields, water's good, but too much water's bad. Then you start rotting the roots. You flood the fields. You cover them with, silt or mud. Then the plants die. So this is something we definitely got to watch. Right now, it looks like not too bad, but like I said, the fear of it getting worse is what's coming with the grain. We'll see. So Kansas, I would say, is a mixed bag. But let's move on. So that ends it for wheat. We'll have to keep our eye on it and see. If you had an opportunity to pick up some and do some long-term storage, it might be something you want to look at if you haven't done so yet. If you've already stocked it, you want to add to it, you're probably doing good. But prices will increase, which will affect inflation. So if you want to, get stuff that, it's, a lot of the wheat products aren't shelf stable. They're turned into breads and flours and all, but you can definitely store flour. If you're thinking that we're getting an inflation surge because of this, you can put flour, you can put it in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, and seal them up. That works as well. So, think about, you might want to do that. Now let's switch gears to the second thing, and that's the bird flu. So it's an election year. So this might ramp up. I'm not saying they're correlated that, election years and pandemics happen, but, it is an election year. So look for bird flu to, take center stage probably. What do we have going on here? We got 4.2 million chickens in Iowa that have just been, basically had to be cold because they had the bird flu. And that's what talks about the herds. We'll talk about that a little bit. It says they detected a flock of, these were egg-laying chickens, 4.2 million. Now, those take a lot longer to replace than the meat birds. Meat bird, you grow them from 10 to 12 weeks. They're done. They go to slaughter, and that's it. A chicken, they need 5-6 months before they produce eggs, when you raise them from, just hatching. So eggs are probably going to go up in price. As bird flu expands, which I fully expect it will, because I mentioned it's kind of an election year, you're going to see the price of eggs go up, which will then, cause the inflation of things that use eggs to go up. So you're going to see more reports of this coming up. So like I always tell you, if you can keep chickens yourself, do so, because you're going to have your own eggs and you don't have to worry about this. And this leads to this last article, still in the bird flu area, is they're considering the bird flu magic potion for poultry and dairy workers. And by magic potion, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, but YouTube doesn't like the other word. It says, since 2022, bird flu in the United States has affected over 90 million chickens, 9,000 wild birds, and 52 dairy herds. That's a pretty good number and expected to get worse. But let's talk about the magic potion, what they're talking about. It says the United States and Europe are taking steps to acquire or manufacture the H5N1 bird flu magic potion that could be used to protect at-risk dairy workers, veterinarians, and lab technicians. If you're in those fields, comment below if you've heard anything about this picking up in your workplace. Are they talking about it? Is this something that they're going to make mandatory? We shall see. Maybe it starts there and then they expand it. This is a quote here coming out of, I don't know what official this was, but U.S. officials last week said they were moving both vaccine from CSL Seqirus, it's a manufacturer, that closely matches the current virus into finished shots that could provide 4.8 million doses of the magic potion. And we'll have one last thing here. This says here that Don O'Connell of the U.S. Administration for Strategic Preparedness and Response. Did you even know we had that? Because they really don't tell us anything. Over in Europe, they're telling their people, hey, prepare for war, get food, get water. This is what we should do for medical. UK's putting out a website. What was that? Lithuania has a report they put out to their populations. They're telling them to get ready. That's what they're doing. According to this, we have a U.S. Administration for Strategic Preparedness and Response. They haven't told anything, but what they do put out is that they're looking closely at the possibility of vaccinating farm workers and others in close contact with the virus. So there you go. They are looking into it. And if they're looking into it, they're going to try to probably make it happen. And they said maybe they'll start with the farm workers, vets and whatnot, growers and all that, and then maybe move from there. So keep your eye on that. Definitely see if we're going to have to go through that fiasco again. And not only that, a problem from that pandemic side of it, but that's going to cause, fear, worry, mass buying. Once this thing, if it picks up legs and gets going, you're not going to see an egg on the shelf. You're not going to see chicken. It's going to be super expensive because they're all going to try to kill every single one of them. They're going to cull everything. So protect your own birds. Get your own birds if you can. Grow your own food. All that great stuff goes a long way. I know most of you can't grow enough wheat to make your flour, but you can acquire it now in the form of flour or wheat berries. So that's all I have for you. Hopefully you got something out of this. Until next time, keep your ear to the ground, head on a swivel.